Thank you for tuning in to the second episode of Ask the Lady Electrical Inspector podcast. I am your host, Tabatha L. I received positive feedback regarding my first episode. I would like to thank each and every person that reached out and personally gave me positive input and support. I want to reiterate why I created this platform. This platform is created for the electrical industry so that we can discuss and agree on the minimum requirements of the National Electrical Code for their projects. I would like to encourage members of the electrical industry to call to discuss any electrical code issues you may have on your job sites. The goal for this platform is to come together as an industry and to have a consistent interpretation of each code article so that the code will be enforced the same on every job site, in every municipality, and in all jurisdictions. My goal is to have a broad agreement as we share and establish a common general understanding of the National Electrical Code requirements for 2014 and 2020. I would like to provide a second alternative for the electrical industry to ask their electrical code questions or homeowners. If you have any electrical code questions and you do not want to speak, please email me at asktheladyelectricalinspector@gmail.com. Earlier this week, I had a contractor ask me. The contractor was from a different state. He was a general contractor. So he was doing work in the St. Louis area. And I asked the contractor who's doing his low voltage cabling for this particular job site. The contractor stated that the state in which he comes from, they don't require you to have an electrical permit if you're doing low voltage cabling. So I just want to describe what low voltage cabling is. Low voltage cabling could consist of fire alarm cable, data cable, security cable, fiber optics, point of sales cable. It's just a 30 volt or less type of communication cable that needs to be installed by a licensed electrical contractor with a permit and an inspection. So I just wanted to open this platform up to any electrical contractors or general contractors that are new to the local area and not sure on what code articles apply or what code, if you need a permit for certain jobs, that you can listen to this platform. Give me a call, email me, and I can answer some of those questions for you. I received a question from a homeowner, and the question states, I am a retired registered nurse and a homeowner. I was wondering if your podcast would be something that homeowners could listen to and learn from. I think that as a homeowner, you can listen to the podcast and you can learn something. I mean, if it's just something as simple as electrical safety in your homes. I'll give you some examples of when I go to homes, and when I'm there, these are existing homes. An electrical contractor, he may have a small job in the basement, because these days now we're not working in the offices anymore. So a lot of people are having home offices installed in their homes. So I get to go and do a lot of those inspections. And walking through people's homes, I do see some things. I try to stay focused on why I'm there, but I do see some things. And if I do see something in your home, I can't call it out. If it's really a safety issue, I will say to you, hey, this is something you should get addressed because it's a safety issue and it's a hazard and it could possibly cause you injury, or it's just an electrical hazard. I will point that out to you. So some of the things that I see in some homes, I see a lot of missing cover plates for your switch covers and your receptacle covers. That's pretty dangerous, I think, because plate, you can get it in Home Depot. You can use what we call a 10-in-1 screwdriver. It has different tips for an average homeowner to use. Is one tool, and it's called a 10-in-1 because you can change this tip to 10 different variations to use. You can use it as a flathead screwdriver. You can use it as a Phillips screwdriver. You can use it as a hex head, and you'll get familiar with this if you need to do this in your home. So the switch covers, they're so easy. If you see your screws backing off of your switch cover, just take a screwdriver, not a butter knife, and just secure it back in place. And that can help you along the way because that will be one less thing you have to worry about. Also, sometimes when I am in people's homes, I see receptacles that are damaged. It looks like there's possibly a burn there, and that is an indication that maybe that receptacle is really hot. I would suggest that you get someone to look at that if you see any burn marks on your receptacles, or take the back of your hand and just gently touch the back of your receptacles to see are they hot, because they should not be hot to the touch. Those are a few things that I've noticed, and a couple other things that I've noticed in some homes. They are existing residents. GFCI protection within 6 feet of sinks. This code article is really important. You should try to have that done if you can, because it's a safety feature. Because if anything happens, that circuit would trip with that GFI breaker or receptacle. So it's really a good safety practice to have those receptacles installed around water within 6 feet. Okay, and then another thing, this is just my opinion from my knowledge and from my experience. I see a lot of electrical furniture that I'm seeing in homes, some of the homes that I'm going inside. And some of that furniture consists of sofas with LED lighting, and some sofas with the LED lightings, and it has different components on it, like it can have a stereo system on it, or some type of iPod system on it, or some type of equipment to listen to music. And the problem that I think, now this is just my personal opinion and what I've seen through experience, if you have such an item in your home, don't, and I repeat, do not leave it plugged into a receptacle outlet unattended. If you want to enjoy it in the comfort of your home, that's very well advised, but please unplug it if it's going to be unmonitored, because it could cause a possible fire hazard, and that's something, just my personal opinion as a homeowner, I think you should do, because I am a homeowner as well. So And other furnitures that you may have in your homes could be massage chairs, recliners, adjustable desks. Um, if you have a lamp that plugs into a table with a USB cord or jack, those are type of furnishings that are being sold at this time. And sometimes when I go into people's homes, I see broken light bulbs. Those are little small things that a homeowner can, if they're not sure how to things taken care of, just call your local electrical contractor. I'm sure they'll come out and they'll get that taken care of, because you don't want your electrical issues to build up and just create more of a safety hazard than you really can afford. So if you just get the little things, when you see them, they won't add up. So I want to go to some cold questions that I received via email. And one of those cold questions that I received states, do grounded and ungrounded conductors of multiple wire circuits have to be grouped together inside a panel board or other enclosures? Yes. That comes from Code Article 250.52. Code Article 250.52, that's in the Code Cycle 214 and 20. It's actually the same code article. And I'll go to 214 and I'll read that for you. Hold on. That code article is 210.4D. Yes, I'm going to go to that code article for you. I'm going to read it for you. Okay, so the ungrounded and the grounded conductors of each multi-wire circuit shall be grouped together or similar means in at least one location within the panel board or the point of origination. So that being said, it must be grouped together. And the code article is 210.4D. Yes. A second code question that I received, can metal flex be installed in wet location if drip loops are installed? No. I found that in article. It's a couple sections where you can look at this and find it. The first article I want you to look at would be Article 300.6. In Article 300.6, it states protection against corrosion and deterioration. Okay, so with that being said, the raceways, cable trays, and cable armors, boxes, etc., shall be made of material suitable for the environment in which they are installed. So that's raceways. And the reason why I went directly to that article is because it just details and highlights raceways. So you specifically asked for flexible, metal flex. So I'm assuming that means FMC, flexible metallic conduit. So that article is also, you can go there and look for it and see the same thing. And that article is Article 348.12. Let's go there if you have your code books. And we're going to read that article and tell you why use metal raceways. Okay. Yes, here we are. Uses permitted. So 348.12. It's the same in the 2014 code as it is in the 2020 code. So it states that uses not permitted. C shall not be used in the following locations, in wet locations. That's the first thing that it states in the uses not permitted in wet locations. So it goes hand in hand with Article 300.6 because you need to make sure that any raceways or materials that you're using for electrical installations that is conducive to the environment in which you're installing it. So if it's outside, you need to make sure that the weather, the type of material you use won't deteriorate or corrode. So you have to have it galvanized. There are certain things you need to use, and there are certain raceways you can't use. So flexible metallic conduit you cannot use in wet locations or outside. Okay, here's another question that I received. In duplex, multi-family dwelling units, apartment complex, do both service disconnects have to be grouped together? Yes. You can find that in Article 230.72. In Article 230.72. And you can find that in the code Article 214 and 220. It states that the 2 to 6 disconnects as permitted in 230.71 shall be grouped together. Each disconnect shall be marked to indicate the load served. So that answers that question. And I also want to point out something else. Anytime you're reading the code book and you see it tells you to refer to a different code article, always go look at that code article just to get familiar with it, just to see what it says, because it could have pertinent information as well, because it's a precursor to what you're doing in the code. So let's just go and look at Article 230.71. And that tells you the maximum number of disconnects allowed. So that question is a precursor to grouping. So always, if you see a code article, and if it asks you to refer to a different code article, just make it a general practice. And also the exceptions. Always make it a practice to look at that as well. So the answer to that question is yes. So I'm going to move along. I don't have any callers yet. I will answer some more questions that I received by email. When running underground conduit from two different existing buildings, do I need expansion fittings? Yes. So this question to me suggests that you have two separate buildings that are going to join together. And if you're asking me, do you need an expansion fitting, that means that there's a gap in the two buildings. So if you have any expansion or contraction and expansion, you will require a fitting that can adjust with the movement of the building. So expansion fittings would be required in new construction, and if you were rehabbing or remodeling, doing any type of interior finish to any buildings or any spaces, those are required. So the article that you can find the expansion fittings in would be Article 300.7B. 300.7b, expansion fittings. Expansion fittings shall be provided with shall be provided with expansion fittings where necessary to compensate for thermal expansion and contractions. So, yes. I also would like to point out, because I've had this on a job or two with expansion fittings, an article that relates to expansion fittings that I want to make sure that contractors know that this article exists. So that article will be 250.98, bonding loosely around jointed metal raceways and expansion fittings. Let's go to that article. 250, it's in grounding, 250.98. See what it says. Okay, so expansion fittings of metal raceways shall be made electrically continuous by equipment bonding jumpers or other means. So what that means is if you have an expansion fitting and it's expanding between two buildings, it has to have an electrical effective grounding on that expansion fitting. So all of the electrical components must bond together. So if you have a strap and it's going from one building to the next building, it has to terminate on that expansion fitting so that the bonding can be continuous. So that's an article that needs to be referred to when you're putting in metal expansion fittings. I wanted to point that out. So I'm going to move right along here because I have some questions. I have quite a few. And here's another question. Can metal wire mold be ran through a wall? So this question I thought about. I'm thinking when you're saying wire mold, you're just talking about a raceway. And I would say metal wire mold can be installed inside a wall if you have accessibility to removing that cover. So that means that the wall or the partitioner or whatever you're going through, it has to have enough room that you can remove that cover off of. And as long as you accomplish that, you shouldn't have a problem. There's not going to be a problem with wire mold going through drywall. And I get that reference from Article 214. Sorry, sir. Hold on. I'm sorry. I get that from 314.29. And if we go to 314.29, it just tells you, in all of the code articles that I've read so far, you can find these code articles in both the 2014 code and the 2020 code in the same location, the same article. I checked both code cycles to make sure that nothing changed with these questions that I'm answering tonight. So 314.29, it states that boxes and conduits and enclosures shall be installed so that the wiring contained inside of them can be rendered accessible without removing any part of structure or in underground circuits without excavating anything. So as long as you don't have to remove that drywall, if you notch it out and it's already removed for enough room to allow that cover to come out, that plate, you'll be okay with electrical wire mold running through drywall or walls or partition or floors. Okay, So I'm going to move along because time is getting away from me, and I want to answer as many questions as I possibly can. When changing out receptacles, you must arc fault the receptacles. How do you arc fault a multi-wire circuit? So, as an electrician, I thought about this because this is an inspector question and it's an electrician question. So, the only way I could think of to arc fault this would be a combination type 2-pole arc fault breaker. And you can find that article in 210.12 for arc faults. And it has to be a listed combination type. And it has to be 2 poles. And that's the only way I know of you can arc fault a receptacle in an existing location when changing out receptacles, because this states that it's you're changing out receptacles, so that leads me to believe that it's an existing location. Okay, I'm going to answer one more question. And that question is, that's really the same question that I answered earlier. It states that, do you have to group wires coming out of the same conduit to a junction box or panel? And that question would be yes. And that would be Article 210.4D, the grouping of ungrounded and grounded conductors of multi-wire circuits shall be grouped together by tie wires or what we like to call tie wraps or similar means. So, yes, they must be grouped together. I would like to thank everyone that reached out and they emailed and they asked questions. I really want to thank you for doing that. I really enjoy answering the questions. And if anyone doesn't agree, please email me or go on any of the social media platforms and reach out so that we can, as an industry, come together and have the same basic understanding of the National Electrical Code. I want to thank you. I really enjoyed answering the code questions. And I will be back next Wednesday. Thank you for tuning in. You have a great evening.